So in the last video, we talked about formatting numbers. There are a few more options that are available. I'm not going to be asking you to use them in this course, but I kind of want to show you at least the first one and the second one. So right now, if I run the code that we wrote before, I'm getting this number and it's huge, and it would be nice to see that this number is 3 million. So how can I do that? Well, what I can do is format it. So I'm going to come here before printing. Inside the printing, I'm going to say format this number. And I want to format it to have only 2 digits after the decimal, so 0.2F. And in addition, I'm going to put a comma here. And this comma is going to be the thousand separator. And so now it's showing me the number in a better way, and it's more user friendly. So this number now is 3 million. Now I just want to point one thing out to you. So here, I'm just going to copy this format again. I'm going to wrap it with a type to see what is the type of this data. Print that. And like we said before, the format gives you everything back as a string. Now, what this means is that if you format something and you try to add, so let's say I formatted a number and then I'm like, let's add 10 to it. This is not going to work because you're now trying to add 10 to a string. And so it complains now that must be a string, not an int. So something's a string, something's an int, something it doesn't like at line 72. So just note that when you format things, the format function gives you things back as a string, so you can't be doing mathematical operations. If you want to do mathematical operations, you need to do the addition first and then do the formatting on the answer. So that's one thing that I wanted to show you. The other thing is, what if this number was not a float? What if it was, not a float, it was a whole number. Instead of F, we can just use D, and that'll work. Okay. Oops, let's do it here. Actually, I don't want to change that for you, so let's just add an extra line. Let's try here. And then here I see it as a whole number. So those are the most famous ones that we're going to be using. There's one more topic that I want to talk about, and the book calls it magic numbers. So what are magic numbers? So basically, let's say I have here a number, let's say extra credit. So let's say the extra credit that I'm giving everyone is 5 points. So when I come and I say the grade, let's say it was 89, and now I would say grade plus equal 5. Here, this is like someone can imagine, immediately look at this and say, oh, this is someone's grade. But then when they're looking at this, like they're wondering why are they adding 5 points to it, or why are they adding 5 to it? So instead of having these numbers that just show up and you can't really tell where these numbers are coming from, it's good for you to create variables. So instead of just putting plus 5, it would be a good idea to say extra credit equal 5, and then now grade plus equal extra credit. So if you don't write any comments, someone who looks at this code will say, okay, well, this is the user's grade, or maybe it's coming from the user. And then this number 5, now I can tell that it's extra credit. So magic numbers are these numbers that you use in your code, and you kind of what they are. Like I know that this is extra credit, or here if I didn't have it, I know that this is the extra credit amount. But people looking at your code might not know that, and sometimes they might show up like pi. For example, I'm doing the area of a circle, and I say it's 3.14 times the radius. Let's say the radius was 10 squared, so to the power 2. Or maybe here I'll say radius equal to 10. I'll put the radius here. So instead of having 3.14 here, we would want to create a variable for it. So I'll say pi equal to 3.14, and then someone who looks at this might make more sense. Pi r squared, pi times the radius squared. Now, someone who looks at this might say, oh, well, why is it 3.14? Let's just make it 3, you know. And if you want to prevent people from changing your code, what we usually do is make magic numbers constants, and we just make them all uppercase. And this indicates to users when they see a variable that's all uppercase, it's an indication to a user that this is a constant. I don't want you to change it. Of course, all these problems that we're talking about with magic numbers can be eliminated with some commenting. And so one of the things that we should do when we write code is write comments. So even though we haven't really talked about it, I've been using it. So comments are things that you put in your code to make it easier for anyone to understand your code. Even for you, if you did something and you're not sure why you did it, you might want to write a comment. So here, I want to write a comment, demo the use of D in format. So comments are used by human beings. You, the programmer, write the comments. Other people looking at your code would read the comments. They are not run by the interpreter. They are not read and commented and run by the interpreter to check if there are syntax errors. If I have some garbage here, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the code in any way. Okay. So these are comments. So if you want to write a comment, a one-line comment, you would start it out with a pound sign. And like I've been using, you can use it at the end of an expression. Once you start the pound sign, everything that comes after is a comment. There's no way to kind of stop the comment. And then there's another way to kind of create a multi-line comment. So if you have a bunch of code that you want to comment out, you can use the triple quotes. What it does basically is kind of like make this a big string, and no one's using the string, so it's not saved in a variable. I'm not printing it. So we're using a string kind of just to save our comments. So we talked about magic numbers. It's better to make them all uppercase, and we call those constants. And then we talked about comments. For the classwork, what you're going to do is you're going to be asking the user for a few information. So you're going to ask the user what's the make of their car. You're going to ask them the number of miles they drove, and you're going to ask them the gallons of gas used. And then you're going to do a calculation based on the miles driven and the gallons to calculate the miles per gallon. And the way you're going to do it is you're going to take the miles driven that they gave you divided by the gallons of gas, and you're going to do that calculation and save it in a variable. And then you're going to print out and then the car's make, MPG is, and whatever the calculation was. Test it on HackerRank and let me know if you have any questions. I just want to point out that in every chapter, there's a slide at the end that's kind of a summary of the main ideas that we've learned so far. So here it shows you how to make a comment. It shows you how to use the different print statements with different quotes, how to print with variables and using the comma feature, using the separator in the end in the print, using the escape sequence like /t and /n, getting user input, and doing the formatting. Okay, so this is a nice slide if you want to print something. I would highly suggest that you print the summary slide of each chapter and keep that handy in case you want to go back and look at how to do anything.